What is up, Riftbound fans? It is Squeegee here with GG Haven, and today we have a very unique video for you guys. I'm also here with a special guest from Draw 3, Legit Vocals.
Hi,
Uh,
how are we doing today, everybody?
it's not going to be your typical card talk. I mean, it is really card talk, but it's not going to be your typical structured video explaining decks or anything like that. Today we are going to be explaining the Riftbound card Errata that the devs have released to kind of clarify and maybe change the meaning on some cards for Riftbound. Um, and if I'm not mistaken, legit, you are one of the judges that is going to be at Houston, if I'm not correct.
Yes, I will be one of the judges at the Houston Riftbound Regional Qualifier that is happening the first weekend of December. So, yes, I will be one of your judges, and I am a certified judge now officially through the UVS judge test system. So, it will be good to know some of these things because some of these interactions could come up in Houston.
Fantastic. All right, so it's been on the screen for a while, but we're just gonna jump right into it. So the first card we have is the Ava Achiever card. So on the screen, I have the way the devs have released the errata is they have the new text on top and the old text on the bottom. We're gonna go through both of them, and then we're just gonna kind of explain the change. Was it a necessary change? Does it clarify things? So first up is Ava Achiever. The old text read, when I attack, you may pay 1 cost to play a card with hidden from your hand here, ignoring its cost. The new text states, when I attack, you may pay 1 cost to play a card with hidden from your hand, ignoring its cost. If it's a unit, play it here. I don't. Maybe legit, you can kind of chime in here, but to me, it sounds like it's the same meaning, but they're just adding the unit or I guess post
They
effects.
added the unit post text because technically you're not able to play units to a battlefield you don't control yet, so it went against game mechanics. So they allowed it so this way Ava's allowed to play units into the same battlefield you're currently attacking at, even though you don't control it yet.
Okay. So, it sounds like this card is gonna be good for adding that additional attacker if you need it in case you need to overcome that. I guess the might cost of the opponent. The next card we're gonna talk about is Baited Hook. So the old text read, it costs 1 card and 1 power. Kill a friendly unit. Look at the top 5 cards of your main deck. You may play a unit from among them that has might up to 1 more than the unit killed, ignoring its cost. Then recycle the rest. So that was the old one. The new text states it's 1 cost, 1 power. Kill a friendly unit. Look at the top 5 cards of your main deck. You may banish a unit from among them that has might up to 1 more than the killed unit, and play it, ignoring its cost. Then recycle the rest. This is very interesting that they added the banish. I believe they added the banish so that I guess other spell cards can kind of manipulate uh, the card that's going to be played from the top 5. Is that correct?
They did it so that way there's a pending zone for spells that you're going to end up putting on the stack because you didn't want people, when you get multiple cards, like if you introduce Nocturne or other cards that may allow you to also play them at the same time, it's not confusing which one is getting played by its own effect, which one's getting played by the current effect. And also, there's ways to stop your opponent from like playing spells in a turn, i.e., like Brynhild or Thundersong. So that way, if a card is banished and you get told, hey, you're not allowed to play cards anymore, that card will remain banished the rest of the game because it can't leave that banished area.
Okay, is this something that they recently added, or has a banished area always been a part of Riftbound?
We really didn't have a banished area, I think, at the start. I think they added it as just like another area to help like process all of like the things that would go on the stack when you play like some of these other cards that we'll get to, like Promising Future and stuff like that, that they just started adding if you're going to end up playing a card from somewhere other than your hand, it gets
Mm-hmm.
banished before it gets played now.
Okay, I see. Okay, perfect. Awesome, cool. So the next card is Blind Fury. The old text read, It's an action that you can play on your turn or in showdowns. Each opponent reveals a top card of their main deck. Choose one and play it, ignoring its cost. Then recycle the rest. The new text says, action, play on your turn or in showdowns. Each opponent reveals a top card of their main deck. Choose one and banish it. Then play it, ignoring its cost. Then recycle the rest. I've seen this card played recently. I guess like Tyler mentioned earlier for the baited hook, they just added that banish part to the card so that it just helps in resolving the chain or the stack, if you were, so that players don't get confused in case they try to stop the summon with a wind wall or something.
It's not just like wind wall, like it's just for clarifying things, like especially when you're looking at Blind Fury in a 4-player pod. You play it, then everybody is like, oh, I have to pick a card. So you pick a card, it all gets banished. But say, instead of like how it would be originally, where it's just play it, like there's no pending area. If you're just playing it, that means, especially with creatures just come into play, they don't use the stack. That's a big thing you need to think about. Creatures don't use the stack. So when you go like, hey, I'm just going to play these things, and then that changes things, because if player, like last player in rotation was to play Brynhildr Thundersong, this card is just the reason why like this whole thing kind of exists. It says people can't play spells. So if your card's banished and it's pending to get played, but it checks that Brynhildr says you can't play things, then your card just stays banished. So it's banishing cards was just to give it like a pending thing, since creatures couldn't be if you just had the just play it, creatures would just automatically hit the battlefield, and then their effects would try to go on the stack while you still had spells that were trying to go off from the Blind Fury or anything else that could be happening.
So I guess this brings up another point. When the card is banished, is it no longer being able to be used for the rest of the game, or is it just until the spell is
gone for the rest of the game?
Okay.
Can't be recycled, can't be anything. It is in its own special place. It is gone forever.
Okay.
Well, at least for the rest of that game.
Okay, fair enough. It's gone for the whole match. You're not allowed to use it at all until the end of the match. Okay, all right, let's just move on to the next card that they errataed, and that is Clockwork Keeper, a card that I am very familiar with and a card that I've used before. As you play me, you may pay 1 cost as an additional cost. If you do, draw 1. That was the old text. The new text reads, you may pay 1 cost as an additional cost to play me. When you play me, if you paid the additional cost, draw 1. I feel like this is just clarification. The old text to me made sense. I don't know why they needed to add that extra break it up into 2 different.
Yeah, this was cleaning up Oracle text, because when you look at like additional costs like accelerate or things that say you have to kill a unit, that is as you would you may pay as when you play it. So you have to think additional costs are paid when you're playing the card before you even show it to your opponent. So the old text was like Clockwork Keeper would come into play, and then they'd be like, hey, do you want to pay 1 to draw 1? You're like, But now it's, hey, do you pay the additional before you even show the Clockwork Keeper to your opponent to draw 1?
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. I kind of like the old text though, to give you the ability to pay the additional cost after the card has been played, because sometimes you never know if, I mean, actually, now that I think about it, I feel like you would just need to pay it if you wanted to draw anyways. If you didn't want to draw, there would be no point in paying it. So okay, never mind then. Let's just move on to the next card. It was as simple and straightforward as I thought it was. Okay, next one is Convergent Mutation. Now this one I have heard from a lot in the local scene that this card needed to be errataed, because the way the card worked currently meant that, for example, if you played a Mundo, you would be able to match that might. But let's just read the text. So the old one was a reaction, play anytime even before spells and abilities resolve. Choose a friendly unit, increase its might until it equals the might of another friendly unit. Pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. They recently had to change it, so now it states reaction, play anytime even before spells and abilities resolve. Choose a friendly unit. This turn, increase its might to the might of another friendly unit. So they're pretty much just removing the might buff at the end of the player who played the card's turn, which I understand the need to kind of balance the game out because, for example, like I mentioned, Mundo, when you play him, however many cards are in your trash, he gets to bump his might. If you play Mundo and have enough runes to then play Convergent Mutation, you're pretty much buffing a 2 might unit equal to whatever Mundo is for the rest of the turn. So I personally think it was a much needed balance because the Teemo deck does go crazy if you run Mundo in it.
Yeah, it wasn't even just like a Mundo's might thing. Think about it this way. We'll still use the example with Mundo. So say you're at a battlefield with Mundo and your opponent comes to the other battlefield to fight like a Poro. You go mutation, make my Poro have the same might as my Mundo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now your Poro is 20 something might. That is just its new stat line. Then
Yep.
if you have another mutation in your hand, you go mutation, target my Mundo, copy my Poro. Now Mundo's base might becomes
Interesting.
whatever the Poro's was, and then Mundo also gets his own plus off of trash. So Mundo goes from like, oh, I'm 20 something, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
lose 3 every turn to, oh, I'm 40 and I'm going to lose 3, but I'll never go lower than 20. So unless you have a hard kill spell, you'll never get these off. So
Yeah.
that their original intention with this is just supposed to be a one-time, hey, your guy gets a little bit bigger. It wasn't supposed to be a permanent thing. And you'll see that with some other cards that we have where it was getting permanent stat boost is not something this game was wanting to do because
Right.
then it just makes scenarios where if you're not in a deck that has hard removal, you would
Mm-hmm.
never be able to stop somebody from contesting a battlefield.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So very. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think the price of the card fluctuated because of the errata. I think before it was a little bit more expensive, but now when everyone found out that, oh, it disappears at the end of the turn, everyone's like, well, I'm only gonna run like 2 of or 1 of now because there's really no point in running the card. I still think it's a great card. It is good for defense. It is good for being able to pressure your opponent into making decisions that they wouldn't normally make if they didn't see that card. So I still think it's a very viable card, especially now with all the new cards that were revealed. So that's just a good balance change to the card itself and to the game as well. Okay, let's move on to Darkchild Starter. The old text read, at the end of your turn, ready 2 runes. The new text is, at the end of your turn, ready up to 2 runes. So this is like a, if you want to ready 2, you can. You don't have to. The old text pretty much stated you need to ready 2 runes. So I guess this was just a clarification to be like, if you want to ready only 1 rune, you can, or 2 or 0. So I think that's pretty much the basics of this.
Yeah, it was clearing things up because the old text was ready 2 runes. So if you only had 1 rune tapped, you could not untap it. You had to have 2 tapped runes.
Yeah. Okay. And now we move on to Dazzling Aurora, the Master Yi card that people run in that deck. So the old text read, at the end of your turn, reveal cards from the top of your main deck until you reveal a unit. Play it, ignoring its cost, and then recycle the rest. The new text states, at the end of your turn, reveal cards from the top of your main deck until you reveal a unit, and banish it. Play it, ignoring its cost, and then recycle the rest. Another banish text added to another one of the play a unit card when you flip, like baited hook, and the other one was blind fury. So they just added that banish it text just for the sake of game mechanics. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Very, very interesting card. I haven't played against the Master Yi with Dazzling Aurora, but I'm kind of scared to play against one because if they pull out a Mundo or some big unit like a Volibear or something, they just get to play it for free, ignoring the cost, and that's going to be a very tough
I think
card.
most Yis are like the low to the ground protects like a unit. like they can play Aurora, but most of the decks we're going to see playing Aurora are going to be like Sett, Misfortune, Volley Bear, stuff like that. Those are the big decks you don't want to see playing Aurora because they will utilize it probably the best with
Yeah.
a better unit pool.
Yeah. Okay, on to another card, Disintegrate. Old text red, action, play on your turn or in showdowns. Deal 3 to a unit at a battlefield. If this kills it, draw 1. New text, same thing, action, play on your turn or in showdowns. Deal 2 to a unit at a battlefield. If this kills it, do this, draw 1. Very interesting change to the card, adding the do this. What are your thoughts on that?
It was just like clearing things up because people were originally they were like it was self-explanatory originally. They were like, "Oh, deal 3 damage. If it kills it, draw 1." Like, sure, but then people were saying like, "Hey, what if it dies to something else and then this technically hit it? Like this killed it. Like it's dead." And overall, like I think this was just clarifying it up. The do this really didn't matter. It was just saying, "Hey, you're gonna draw 1." It's just saying that Disintegrate has to be the thing that kills the unit.
Gotcha. Yeah, because then you can have, I guess their argument was like, for example, if they stupefy something and it kills the unit after it, Disintegrate technically did kill it, even though it didn't. It wasn't the spell that killed it.
It was like now it's when the spell resolves, it checks like, hey, did I kill that unit? No. Okay, you don't draw.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So nice little clarification text there. A lot of cards needed a lot of clarification because a lot of people were just very confused on order of operations with this game, and it is a lot. But once you understand it, you can do some pretty interesting things with it. Next card we have is Dragon's Rage. I believe this is the Lee Sin signature spell, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir, it is.
So the old text read, move an enemy unit, then choose another enemy unit at its destination. They deal damage equal to their mights to each other. The new text reads, move an enemy unit, then do this. Choose another enemy unit at its destination. They deal damage equal to their mights to each other. Another situation, just like the Disintegrate spell.
This one's a little bit different. This turned this from a spell that had to tell you both targets into a spell that only has to tell you the moving targets, and then becomes a reflexive trigger on the back half.
I see. So pretty much if I move, let's say a Poro back to their base, for example, I can then choose. I have to choose an enemy unit at the base. I can't choose one at the other battlefield or at the existing battlefield that it was moved from.
So technically, how it was is how the old one read was: I target an enemy unit at location A, and I have to tell you the enemy unit at the location it's going to. So you have the information of where I'm moving the enemy unit and who I'm targeting, because it has to be who's there. Now it is, I'm saying, hey, I'm going to move this unit. If you let it resolve, all right, once it's moved here, now I'm going to have it fight this person at this location. Because what you used to be able to do is, since you knew both targets, if you had multiple units, you could just remove that unit. Then all they did was move their unit into yours, and or move the enemy unit to just your base. And you're like, cool, my guy takes no damage. But now it's like, hey, now I'm going to move. Now I'm going to attempt to do this damage. Now you have to respond at a different instance. So it's just another one of these reflexive triggers that you're having to think about whenever you want to play against like wind wall and stuff like that. If you want to waste your wind wall on this, you have to do it before you know who he's doing the damage to.
Okay, that's very interesting. It adds that extra layer of, oh, he played Dragon's Rage. I've got 2 units at base. If he moves them there, which one would he choose without knowing exactly what he chooses? And then you have to kind of decide if it's worth to waste, like you said, a wind wall or... I don't know, can Defy counter Dragon's Rage? I don't think so.
I don't think it can, but I haven't looked at the cost off the top of my head right now. Yeah. But I know wind wall definitely would be something that could stop. So.
Very, very, very cool change to this card. All right, move on to Dune Drake. So, old text read, when I attack, give me +2 might. If there is a ready enemy unit here, the new text reads, when I attack, give me +2 might this turn if there is a ready enemy unit here.
This is just another one of those, is we didn't want stat buffs to be permanent, because people were reading it and they said, well, this never says it goes away. So then Dune Drake could just infinitely scale itself and become bigger and bigger every time it moves somewhere a readied unit was.
Yeah. Awesome. That would be very interesting if they did keep it like the old one, but then, like you said, the infinite scaling kind of sneaks up on people, and they're like, oh, now I don't know how much might Dune Drake has. I think it's 8 might, if I'm not mistaken. It might be less than that.
I'm pretty sure it starts at 4.
Okay.
First proc, it goes to 6.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Moving on. Highlander. So, this one, old text was, reaction, play anytime, even before spells and abilities resolve. Choose a friendly unit. The next time it dies this turn, recall it exhausted instead. Send it to base. This isn't a move. New text reads, reaction, play anytime, even before spells and abilities resolve. Choose a friendly unit. The next time it would die this turn, heal it, exhaust it, and recall it instead. Send it to base. This isn't a move. Were people getting confused on, because I noticed they added the heal it text.
This was to help against, like, sadly enough, Kaisa decks and stuff like that. Because if you think about, this has the same text as like Zhonya's, right? It recalls your unit. Same thing as Sett. It recalls your unit, right? But nothing in this text ever said it removed the damage off the unit. And since the unit never left the board, so what people were doing was, I would mark you for 3 damage, like on a 4 toughness unit. Then I'd go Stupefy. It would reduce you down to where it would kill you. It would burn your Highlander or Zhonya's, and then you'd go to base, and then it'd be like, hey, you still only have 3 might, and you have 3 damage marked on you, so kill yourself again.
Okay, I see.
So they made it so now replacement effects heal you, so it removes any damage marked on it. It won't heal the minus might, but it will heal the damage, so that way your units survive instead of just rechecking state-based actions and removing themselves from the board.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I did notice that the cards, I guess the old text cards never said to heal it. It always said to recall it or move it to base or whatever it was. So that is very interesting that that it wasn't included in the original text of the card. But that's cool. That's very, very interesting. Next card we have is Karma Channeler. I almost said Challenger. The old text read, Vision, when you play me, look at the top card of your main deck. You may recycle it. When you recycle 1 or more cards, buff a friendly unit. If it doesn't have a buff, it gets a +1 might buff. Runes aren't cards. New text reads, Vision, when you play me, look at the top card of your main deck. You may recycle it. When you recycle 1 or more cards to your main deck, buff a friendly unit. If it doesn't have a buff, it gets a +1 might buff. Runes aren't cards. Very interesting card, because at locals it did come up and argue saying, well, I'm recycling a rune. I know that it says on the card that runes aren't cards, but you're still technically recycling it. So I should be able to buff a friendly unit.
Yeah, and that was a big controversy at first, because when you're looking at runes, you're like, but I had to submit 12 rune cards for a rune deck, and it's still recycling a card, so people were arguing with this a lot. But what they intended purpose of it was for when you're recycling cards to your main deck, because it wanted it to proc off Vision and other stuff like that. So that's why they added the Oracle text, which is saying, hey, it has to be to your main deck. If you're recycling something and it's not going to your main deck, then it won't proc Karma.
So another interesting thing that was also brought up. So the Vision text on the card right now, you look at the top card and then recycle it. So if, for example, you didn't need the card, you recycled it, that's technically meeting the criteria of 1 or more. It would buff a friendly unit normally. If you were to recycle an additional card, do you get the buff again and get to buff another unit?
So if it's part of the same recycle, so like say I'm playing something that So if Karma said, look at the top two cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you decided to recycle both, you would only get one buff counter because it's when you're recycling one or more. It's checking instances of recycling. So if you're only recycling one instance, doesn't matter how many cards, but if you're recycling that instance, you'll get one buff. But then if you do something on the, like, you resolved Karma, you gave a buff, and then you played stacked deck, and you're like, oh, I want this card, and then I'll put these other ones recycled to the bottom, then that would be another recycle instance, so you'd be able to give another buff.
Okay, so you still can't. Well, you're able to proc the when you recycle one or more cards more than once in separate instances. It doesn't have to be only in that one instance when Karma's played or anything like that.
Yes.
Okay, cool, awesome. All right, moving on to the next card. We have Kinkou Monk. The old text read, when you play me, buff 2 other friendly units. Each one that doesn't have a buff gets a +1 might buff. New text read, when you play me, buff up to 2 other friendly units. Each one that doesn't have a buff gets a +1 might buff. I guess it's just to prevent another buffing itself, but I would think that because it says other, you're not allowed to target the monk itself.
It was changed. It wasn't about buffing itself. It was about if you only had one other unit on the board, you couldn't even give it a buff. And this really mattered in set decks that
right.
want to give a buff.
Yep.
So now it's up to 2. So even if you only have one unit and you play Kinkou Monk, you'll be able to give that one unit a buff instead of just going, hey, I have to play this as a vanilla because I only have one unit on the board now.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. All right, and we'll move on to one of my favorite cards in the Riftbound set, Nocturne Horrifying. The old text read, ganking can move from battlefield to battlefield. When you look at cards from the top of your deck and don't draw them and see me, you may play me for 1 recycle cost, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
The new text reads, ganking, I can move from battlefield to battlefield. As you look at or reveal me from the top of your deck, you may banish me. If you do, you may play me for 1 any rune recycle cost.
For a power.
Yeah, for a power. Of any power, I should say. I think a lot of people were getting confused specifically with the Strategist Teemo and the stacked deck, because when you play stacked deck, you're not revealing you don't reveal Nocturne, so you could play him with stacked deck, which the old text states that yes, that works. However, if you're playing Teemo Strategist, when you're defending, you reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, and then for every hidden card that's revealed, you may you may deal damage to a unit at the battlefield. Technically, according to old text, you weren't allowed to play Nocturne because you're revealing instead of looking at. So I guess this text was mostly changed to kind of clarify when you can play Nocturne.
It was to give it. They intended it every time like you would see Nocturne. If you saw it from your deck, then you were able to play it. And that, like, look cards like Stack Deck and Baited Hook and stuff like that, those cards looked at the top 5 and didn't give that information to your opponent. So, like, yes, you could have played Nocturne. But, like you said, Teemo, Aurora, stuff like that said reveal cards, or like, Teemo, Aurora, that revealed cards wouldn't be able to proc Nocturne because reveal wasn't a part of it, because you're not looking at those cards. Well, technically you're looking, but you're not. It's not the actual word look, and when you're looking at TCGs, like, you need like very like specific words, and that's why they added the reveal. So now Nocturne does work in Aurora decks like Aurora MF, so they can go, hey, it's kind of funny that you can do this interaction, but if they reveal Nocturne off Aurora, they can choose to banish it from Aurora or banish it to Nocturne effect, but I don't know anybody who would want to banish it from Nocturne effect when you're just going to play it for free from Aurora. And then Teemo, it lets you play more bodies in Teemo now.
So going back to the Aurora card, you look at the cards, you look at the cards on
you
your
reveal
deck.
till you hit a unit.
Right. So technically, wouldn't you be allowed to reveal an addition more cards after the
No,
Nocturne?
no,
Oh, okay, I
because
see.
because
I see.
Aurora would see Nocturne being like, "Hey, you hit a unit."
Right. So if you hit a Nocturne in Aurora, that's kind of not the best thing, it sounds like, because then you lose out on the Nocturne ability and you would have to play it out for the Aurora
Well,
cost.
Aurora plays it for free, which means you don't have to pay a rune. So it makes
Yeah.
it so you don't have to pay
Oh,
a rune for
fair.
Nocturne.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
You just miss out on like the Nocturne ability of like being able to play 2 units
Yes.
because you've
Yeah.
already seen it.
Yeah. Like I said, still one of my favorite cards, and it is very fun to reveal Nocturne. But when you're on the receiving end of that reveal, especially against a Teemo deck that just anytime you attack that strategist, he just reveals 5. It is not fun. I have been Nocturne twice in one turn because of stack deck and because of the strategist Teemo revealing the top 5 cards. It's not fun, but it is very fun to do to your opponent. I will say. So that's good. All right, next card we have is Pack of Wonders. The old text read, you can exhaust me or exhaust the card or tap the card, return another friendly gear unit or hidden card to its owner's hand. The new text reads, you can tap me, return another friendly gear unit or face down card to its owner's hand. Now, I'm assuming the last part there, or face down card to its owner's hand, that's more so that you can actually return a hidden card from that your opponent has down, correct?
No, no.
Oh,
So Pack of Wonders can only target friendly stuff. So it had to be friendly gear,
okay.
friendly unit, face down card. The reason why they did this was so we didn't have any because technically a face down card, like a hidden card, you don't know it's a hidden card. It's
Right,
just a face down card
right.
because it's becomes private information. So it's like you don't know it's a hidden. So when you would tap Pack of Wonders, you couldn't put the hidden back in your hand because you don't know it's hidden. It's a face down card. So
Gotcha.
they changed hidden to face down card, so that way you can pick up your hidden, so you can put a different hidden there if you need to.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, that's very interesting. So very straightforward. All right, let's move on to the next card. We've got Portal Rescue. So they do have a note here. Anyone that says the text only differs for English versions of the card, I guess in the Chinese versions of the card, the old text would still read similar. I'm assuming that's what that note means. But the old text read, action, play on your turn or in showdowns. Banish a friendly unit, then play it to base, ignoring its cost. The new text reads, action, play on your turn or in showdowns. Banish a friendly unit, then its owner plays it to their base, ignoring its cost. I'm assuming they worded this, they worded it the way they did because of possession and how that works.
Yeah, possession and other cards that take it, because when they were looking at this card, they were like, it replays the unit. That's what they wanted this to be, because since it replays it, so like if you did Portal Rescue on like a Yordle or something that had an unplayed draw card or something, you would get that effect again. But then you ran into the thing where it's like, hey, what if my opponent had a Yordle and I took it and I wanted that card draw? Well, I could go Portal Rescue on their Yordle, but how they intended this card was to replay the card. That means whoever owned it gets to replay it. So if you used it on somebody else's card that you took, well, now they get their card back. So you no longer own it anymore.
Okay. And I if I remember reading the rules correctly, they did technically change how the owner keyword works as well, if I'm not mistaken, because of that whole possession interaction.
Yes, because then there's like cards that are like return a friendly unit to its owner's hand, stuff like that, recall and stuff like that. Then it's like, hey, do I just get to take your card and put it into my hand?
Right. Okay, cool. Very interesting change. All right, let's move on to the next card. Promising Future. The old text read, each player looks at the top 5 cards of their main deck, chooses one, then recycles the rest. Starting with the next player, each player plays those cards, ignoring energy costs. They must still pay the power cost. The new text reads, each player looks at the top 5 cards of their main deck, banishes one of them, then recycles the rest. Starting with the next player, each player plays those cards, ignoring energy costs, but they must still pay the power cost. Again, they're just adding that banish there just to clean up the stack.
Just to clean up the stack and things. That way, units just don't plop into the field and then disrupt the stack.
Yeah, alright. So we're moving on to the next card, which is Ravenborn Tome. The old text reads, tap me or exhaust me. The next spell you play deals 1 bonus damage. Each instance of damage the spell deals is increased by 1. The new text reads, tap me or exhaust me. The next spell you play this turn deals 1 bonus damage. Each instance of the damage the spell deals is increased by 1. I guess another clarification. To me, it actually...
This is another thing to stop infinite stacking.
Yeah.
Because old text just said the next spell you play. So you tap Tome, and you'd be like, okay, my Void Seeker's now going to do 5 damage. And so then you had to keep track of. The next turn, you'd be like, I'll tap Tome, now it's going to do 6 damage. I'll tap Tome, it'll do 7. Until you play a spell, your opponent would always have to think and be like, well, this next spell's doing like +5. Like,
yeah.
This is getting out of hand. And that's not how we intended the card. We intended the card to be just tap this turn, something gets to deal more damage.
Yeah. All right, moving on to Savage. Old text read, action play on your turn in showdowns. You may kill a gear, draw 1. The next card, or the new text read, action play on your turn in showdowns. You may kill up to 1 gear, draw 1. Now, I'm assuming they changed it this way so that way instead of you having to kill a gear if there's no other gear on the field, you can kill no gear but still get the draw.
Yeah, so old text, you could not play this unless there was a gear on the board, which really upset players because players were like, because this game usually is a do as much as you can, but you needed to target a gear to be able to get the draw 1, so you couldn't just go, hey, I'll just draw 1, kill nothing, because if there's nothing target, you couldn't draw 1. Now he made it so it's up to 1 gear, so that way, even if there's not a gear, like if it's just in your main board and you like they don't have Aurora, you can go, cool, I'll play Salvage to draw 1.
Gotcha. Cool. All right, moving on. Next card we have is Sigil of the Storm. If I'm not mistaken, this is Volibear's signature spell?
No, Sigil of the Storm is a battlefield.
Oh, it's the right. Okay, that makes sense. The old text read, when you conquer here, recycle 1 of your runes. New text read, when you conquer here, you must recycle 1 of your runes. This doesn't choose anything. I guess now they made it mandatory for you to recycle a rune instead of just being like, no, I don't want to recycle a rune.
It wasn't really a mandatory thing. It was old text. You had to target one of your runes. You'd be like, hey, I'm going to recycle this rune. And then what you would do is like respond to the trigger and be like, I'm going to cast a spell that makes me recycle this rune anyways. So then I recycle, like I did nothing. Now it doesn't choose anything. Like you just have to recycle a rune now.
Gotcha. So if you don't have any exhausted runes, you need to at least recycle.
Yeah, when you conquer, you're just gonna recycle.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right, moving on to a champion card now, Sona Harmonious. Old text read, when I'm at a battlefield, ready 4 friendly runes at the end of your turn. The new text read, at the end of your turn, if I'm at a battlefield, ready up to 4 friendly runes. Again, in case we're at 4 runes because she is a 4 cost 1 power unit. So if you played her and had to recycle that 1 rune, you would not be able to ready the 3 runes that you use to play her. The new text is pretty much saying, when you do play her, if you don't got anything else to ready, you can ready those 3 runes without having to worry about not readying them.
Yeah, they did that, and then they also added the end of your turn to the start of the sentence, so players wouldn't just read, while I'm at the battlefield, ready 4 runes, and then they'd be like, no, it has to be the end of your turn.
They moved the beginning of the end of the old text to the beginning of the new text, and then added that up too, just for clarification. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next card, which is Targon's Peak. This is a battlefield. Old text is, when you conquer here, ready 2 runes at the end of this turn. New text reads, when you conquer here, ready up to 2 runes at the end of this turn. Another self-explanatory change. In case you couldn't ready 2 runes, you can ready at least 1 or 0 runes if you wanted to. Okay, moving on to Teemo Strategist. This is the card that we mentioned earlier with the Nocturne. So the old text read, hidden, hide now for 1 power to react later with 0. When I defend or I'm played from hidden, reveal the top 5 cards of your main deck, deal 1 to an enemy unit here for each card with hidden, then recycle them. New text reads, hidden, hide now for 1 power to react later with 0. When I defend, choose an enemy unit here and reveal the top 5 cards of your main deck. Deal 1 to that unit for each card with hidden revealed this way, then recycle the reveal cards. I'm guessing this is also order of operations. You have to choose a unit first before revealing the cards, if I'm not mistaken. So that way you can't just reveal the cards and then be like, oh, I'm going to choose that one.
It's because old text, it was deal 1 damage to an enemy unit here for each hidden card. So if you revealed 5 hidden cards, you could branch out the 5 damage to 5 different targets if you wanted it.
Gotcha.
And then now they just made it so now it's just they took out the win plate from hitting as well. They just put, hey, when you defend with it, and then it's deal to that unit. So it's instead of an enemy unit, it is you pick 1 unit and you deal all the damage to that unit. You don't get to split it up anymore.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, if a Nocturne is revealed within that, you can pay the power cost, or the recycle cost, I should say, sorry, and play that Nocturne to the battlefield that he is defending at. All right, moving on. It's a long list of eroded cards.
We're almost there. We're
almost there. All right, next is the boss, or if I'm not mistaken, this is the Sett Legend card. The old text read, when a buffed unit you control would die, you may pay 1 cost and exhaust me to spend its buff and recall it exhausted instead. Send it to base. This isn't a move. When you conquer, ready me. New text reads, if a buff unit you control would die, you may pay 1 rune or 1 cost, exhaust me, and spend its buff to heal it, exhaust it, and recall it instead. Send it to base. This isn't a move. When you conquer, ready me. Another add, heal it, so that way the damage doesn't stay on the unit and you can just get a free kill off of it.
Yeah, it was adding the heal, and so it's like when Sett would pay the power cost and be like, hey, I'm going to pull my unit back, and then be like, okay, well, it just dies again. And we're like, no. Now it heals it, so that way your unit doesn't just instantly die again.
Yeah. All right, moving on. The Dreaming Tree. This is another battlefield. Old text read, the first time you choose a friendly unit with a spell here each turn, draw 1. New text read, when a player chooses a friendly unit here with a spell for the first time each turn, they draw 1. Another way to not make it infinitely stacking, because then you could just keep drawing 1 for every time you chose a friendly unit here with a spell.
That's not exactly what this got changed for. This got changed because it was old text. You had to control the battlefield. So that way, if defenders were there, they wouldn't, not defenders, attackers, if they came and they choose their unit, they wouldn't get any draw.
Gotcha.
Now it's whenever a player chooses a friendly unit with a spell, they get to draw. Instead of just being like, oh, you don't control the battlefield, you don't get a draw.
Oh, okay, I see. So now with the new text, if you and me are playing and you're controlling Dreaming Tree and I'm moving in to attack you, if I choose 2 units with the spell back to back, for example, give 2 units plus 2 might, I will be able to draw a card because they're my friendly units. Is that correct?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Next card we have is the Syren. I don't think I've seen this card. Again, they make the note that this is only different in the English version of the card. So the old text is, you pay 1, exhaust me to move a friendly unit at a battlefield to your base. The new text reads, you pay 1, tap me or exhaust me, move a friendly unit at a battlefield to its base. This actually looks like it wasn't. Oh, it says to your base. Okay, to its base. Okay, fair enough. I guess that's the only word that they changed. I was like, this looks like the exact same sentence. So, pretty self-explanatory card, I think. So we'll just move on to the next card. Next is Tideturner. This one is a unit card. Old text red, hidden, hide now for 1 power to react later with 0. When you play me, you may choose a friendly unit, move me to its location, and it to my original location. The new text red, hidden, hide now for 1 power to react with later for 0. When you play me, you may choose a unit you control at another location, move me to its location, and it to my original location. I guess they had to add that you control, because I guess it didn't really say.
They added the you control because of how hidden works. If you
Okay.
hide a card, that card can only affect the battlefield it's at.
Mm-hmm.
So Tideturner is one of, I think, 2 cards. One of 2 cards that can technically not have to affect the battlefield it's at,
Mm-hmm.
because it allows you to choose something you control at another location, and then that lets you swap with it. If they didn't change this, Tideturner could only swap with something that was at the battlefield it's currently at, which means it does nothing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Right. Okay. Cool. This is also another card that is run in the Teemo deck, and it is very useful to help you save a Teemo or save a Nocturne if you want to swap them out, or bring him in case you played him to the base. But he is very viable in the Teemo deck. Okay, moving on to the next card, which is Unforgiven. Again, they make the note that it only affects the English version of the card. The old text read, pay 2, exhaust or tap me, move a friendly unit to or from your base. New text is, pay 2, exhaust me, move a friendly unit to or from its base. I think that one is literally just the it's and your again, so there's not much.
Most of these things for the English translations, they just wanted to change yours to its.
Yeah.
That way, just in case, like, in the future, or it's future proofing, like if I was to go, like, somehow you could respond to this and then take control of it, well, now it would go to the other base instead of yours.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, next card is Unlicensed Armory. The old text said, discard 1, tap me or exhaust me, choose a friendly unit. The next time it dies this turn, you may pay 1 rune to recall it exhausted instead. Send it to base. This isn't a move. New text reads, discard 1 card, exhaust me, choose a friendly unit. The next time it would die this turn, you may pay 1 rune or 1 cost to heal it, exhaust it, and recall it instead. Send it to your base. This is, again, another card that added the heal it part of its save text for units, so that way you can't just proc it and then it'll just die because the damage didn't technically get healed from it. So just another clarification there. Moving on to Void Gate. So the old text reads, spells and abilities affecting units here each deal 1 bonus damage. Each instance of damage the spell deals is increased by 1. New text reads, spells and abilities deal 1 bonus damage to units here. Each instance of damage the spell deals to a unit here is increased by 1. Another scenario where if I'm attacking and legit is defending, every time I target something, I can deal an additional damage, and then he can also deal that additional damage to me as well.
It wasn't really that. This one got changed. This one didn't have the targeting problem because it says affecting units here. It didn't matter who controlled it. It was more old text was affecting units here. So if I went play this spell, I'm gonna target you. Void Gate like, all right, you get to deal 1 bonus damage. But if they in response said, I'm gonna run away, well, it's like, all right, I've already gotten the 1 bonus damage, so gotcha. Mm-hmm. But now it's units here, so the unit still has to be there at the end of resolution of the spell.
Gotcha. See, and this is why I brought Legit along to clarify that, so that way, I'm not giving any any wrong information or making sure everyone understands the errata the way it's supposed to be understood. All right, we'll move on to move on to the next one, which is Zhonya's Hourglass. So the old text read, hidden, hide now for 1 power to react later with 0. The next time a friendly unit would die, kill this instead, recall that unit exhausted, send it to base. This isn't a move. And then the new text reads, hidden, hide now for 1 power to react later with 0. If a friendly unit would die, kill this instead, heal that unit, exhaust it, and recall it. Send it to base. This isn't a move. Now, I believe this one was changed because a lot of people were confused on when Zhonya's would proc.
No, they just added the heal to this.
And
just made it easier to read.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, they also did add that. But all right, we'll move on to the next card. But before we do, funny little tidbit here on Zhonya's. I don't know if you guys saw our other video where we reacted to the devs that released a bunch of new cards for the Spirit Forged set to come out next year. There's actually a new equipment card called Guardian Angel that lets the user save the unit instead of it dying. And I just can't wait to see how people are gonna include Zhonya's and Guardian Angel, because if I'm not mistaken, the way the order would go is that you can pop Guardian's Angel before Zhonya's, or does Zhonya's take priority?
So they're both replacement effects, so you just choose which replacement effect you would like to happen. So most people are just going to choose Zhonya's to go off. That way you can keep the equipment attached to your unit, and then just keep the buffs or anything else they have on it.
All right, and I think that is it. I think we have I think Zhonya's was the last card in the errata text. Yes, it was. All right, so I know this was possibly a long video for everyone. It was more of a talking head, kind of very detail oriented and a lot of information, but I feel like these kind of videos are important, so people that are getting into Riftbound or are already into Riftbound are aware of any of the card changes, so that way if you're playing in a local or if you're playing at the regional in Houston in a couple weeks, you won't get surprised by, oh, I didn't know that's how that card worked. At least now you'll have the knowledge of the cards that were changed, and hopefully that kind of helps you understand the game a bit more. Anything else to add, Legit, before we end it here?
No, if I do see any of you at Houston, I wish you guys the best of luck, and I hope if you guys have any questions or any possibilities on cards that you're like, oh, I'm not sure how this works, that you do look it up a little bit ahead of time, so that way you're not in the blind going forward and have your opponent be like, well, that's not how that works, or you go and you're playing against an opponent and they do something and you're like, wait, I don't think that's how it works. And I'm like, well, yeah, it does work because this got published and changed. So I would just say do your research before the first regional qualifiers. That does happen the first weekend of December.
Yeah, and also remember another little tip, I guess you would, for Riftbound. You're allowed a notebook. You can bring notes. You can write things down. You can write exactly what the opponent has played, how many runes they have up. You're allowed to. So if you want to keep a little cheat sheet of the errata cards or like card effects and how they work out, you're totally allowed to do that. You can keep a notebook with you. I think it's one of the most beneficial things for a player to keep notes, especially if you have trouble keeping track of everything that's going on, because Riftbound is a lot of moving pieces and a lot of interactions and reactions. So I think it is very beneficial for you to keep a notebook just so you can understand the flow of the game and make sure you fully utilize the information that is given to you at the time that is given to you, and you can relate or go back to it later and look at it just so you fully understand. With that being said, that is going to be the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was long, but you know, we have to make sure information is not false and make sure it's accurate. If you guys would like, hit the subscribe button down below, leave a like, leave a comment on this video or any of our other videos on what other kind of Riftbound content you guys would like to see. I'm Squeegee signing off, and then I want to thank again Legit from Draw 3 from coming by and helping me out with this video and kind of clarifying everything. So until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.